Hello, and welcome to season 3 of For the Love of Tinsel, your safe and cozy place to lean into your love of romantic holiday movies. I'm Isha,
And I'm Angela.
and we are so happy to be sharing this season with you.
Yep, we're going to indulge in some holiday banter about many things that make the holiday season just, fun and warm and tingly. I'm very excited. I said warm and tingly, and then I realized, ooh, I'm very excited for what this
Oh
episode is
my,
about.
that kind of warm and
Racy.
tingly. Oh
Racy,
my.
racy.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, on that note, why don't we all just take a breath a little bit, relax our shoulders, and
All
enter
right,
to
yeah.
our
Mhm,
safe place to talk
mhm.
about, wait for it, drum roll. Angela, you want to let them know?
Sex and the sexy in holiday movies. So hide the kids.
Hide the children.
Mhm,
Yeah, yes, we are going there because we have to. We
mhm.
absolutely have to. I mean,
Of
the fact of
course,
the
of
matter
course.
is that the two of us focus on a particular subgenre of holiday movies, and
Mhm.
that's the rom and the com. And
Mhm.
the rom is between adults, and so we want to throw. If you're going to throw about the L word, you've got to show what adults do to get there. And that usually
Mhm.
involves some level of intimacy. But, it's tricky because we're also talking about Hallmark. So,
Yeah.
places like that. So we gotta figure something out. We want to talk about it.
So, first of all, I just have to say, Aisha, the
Uh-oh.
rom in the com. I mean, girl,
Listen,
you.
I'm like, no one's looking for intimacy and, Miracle on 34th Street, right? That's not what we're talking about. Because
Exactly.
that
No,
would be
I
gross.
just you get the slow clap for rom com. Okay.
Thank you kindly.
So, you know, I've been tasked with discussing sort of like the history of intimacy in these films, and it's really kind of basic. Like it's like we had someone talk a little bit about, the past was the whole movie had to kind of be build up, build up, build up, build up, and it culminates in a very chaste kiss, closed
Yes.
mouth,
Yep.
um, and then the
So
end
close.
credits, right? Um, and there are still some holiday movies that's sort of their MO. Like the whole movie kind of builds up to this one kiss and you're kind of waiting. There's always like the probably end of second act, there's like they almost kiss, they're very close, but then for some reason they can't, they're interrupted,
Yes.
or and then it all builds to the big kiss at the end. And I would say like most of the movies are that still, right? That's still kind of like how they do it. And, a lot of that is because people are watching it with family, and a lot of, it's like you're watching it with like your grandma. It's not like you really want to watch this like hot and heavy sex scene with like grandma.
Although my
Um,
my grandma was not afraid to be like, "What was that?"
True.
Like I just,
Exactly.
I come from women who have read a lot of romance novels, and you know how they
Hmm.
get in those romance
Oh yeah.
novels,
Oh
and
yeah.
so
Oh
you
yeah.
know. Sometimes these movies could fall short. Also, when there's so many back in the day where they would end with like a marriage proposal, and
Oh
you're
yeah.
going, I
That
just
was so weird. That was so weird, that time where you'd be like, "So you guys have known each other for like a week and now you're going to get married?"
Sure,
Like,
sure.
what?
Without physically really touching each other. You've got one
Mhm.
kiss that you got after
Mhm.
you asked them to marry you, and you're thinking, I just
Yeah.
ah the
That was weird. They don't
stretching.
do that as much anymore. Like
No.
now, if there's a marriage proposal, it's usually like a couple that dated before for a really long
Correct.
time and then split up for like some dumb reason.
Right.
Then they can like justify a marriage proposal, but that's literally the only time they do that now.
Right. Or they'll go
But
1 year
there's
later.
exactly. Oh, I can't stand the 1 year laters. I don't. It drives me crazy. It's like I don't need it. Okay, I know they're
Ah,
together. I know they're
it
happy. I don't
cracks
need a
me
1 year
up.
later. But now it's like, but there's not any sex, right?
Oh gosh, no.
Not no sex. Now, it was very big. We talked about this last season. Lifetime had they say it was their first sex scene. I guess it was their first sex scene, but
Because the camera hung out for a while,
yeah, it was like
like
they kissed and people kind of like leaned in and kind of went towards the bed. But and I feel like some movies have been kind of clever implying sex, but you don't
Right.
see it, because there have been some movies where I've been like, I mean, like I rewatched I this is just coming to me, so I do not remember the name, but I
It's okay.
rewatched the Jane Seymour movie. Jane Seymour had a holiday movie on Lifetime where it was
Yep.
with her and the guy that she was on Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman with. Um,
Very attractive.
very attractive. They 100% had
Gentleman.
sex in that movie.
Absolutely.
100%
Absolutely.
had sex in that movie.
Absolutely.
They handled it very well because it was just kind of like she kept like going over to his house,
And
and
they
I
were
was like,
grown. They were grown. They were just like, we
these two
grown.
people are having sex. Now
Yep.
they handled that well because I was just like, you've let me know that you're having sex without like, you
Right.
know, I would have watched the two of them get it on a little bit, but
Right.
she kept going to his house at night. And I was like,
Where her
it's
kids
not
wondering where she was going and all the things.
exactly.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But yeah, overall, these movies are incredibly chaste. And that's kind of the deal.
Okay, so you know the movie this year that came out that you want to see that has
Mhm.
Maria
Oh, Menounos,
Menounos?
yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
Do you remember the name of the movie?
Christmas at Plum Hill Manor.
That's it. In that one,
Hmm.
they did something funny where clearly they slept together, which I'm like, I
Mm.
get it. But
Hmm.
how they did it was they started off and then they
Hmm.
had the next morning and he goes,
Oh.
"Wow, I've never been here in the morning before," because he works at the manor. And he was like, "It looks
Oh.
different." And she's like, wearing things that you would sleep
Oh.
in. And she was like, "Well, how does it feel?" And he was like, "It feels like that was their moment."
Oh, okay.
There's a difference between sex and sexy, right?
Hmm.
And you
Hmm.
and I think for me, the issue has always been is that when you take the need for sex appeal off the table with
Hmm.
these movies, then you
Hmm.
don't necessarily have to have chemistry, right?
Right.
And when you
Hmm.
take chemistry off the
Mm.
table, you end up with these movies that you're going just nothing. I know they felt
Mhm.
nothing. They felt like
Mhm.
brother and sister on a
Yeah.
good day. And it does kill the rom in the com as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned,
Yeah.
and I feel like
Happens a lot. Happens a
yes,
lot.
it really does,
Mhm.
and I feel like the stakes are so low because 'cause you're like, "Get together, don't get together."
Yeah.
I'm not really buying that you guys want each other like that, so
Mhm. Mhm.
for me, the best ones are all that's part of it, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
part of it that these people physically want each other. They
Mhm.
can't figure out
Mhm.
how to do it, but
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
happens and they physically want each other. I think
Mhm.
that makes for a better rom-com in general, even though it's a holiday rom-com. And the
Right.
thing
Yeah.
is that, so we read this article that was in the New York Times.
Mhm.
And it was talking about the idea that, rom-coms, holiday rom-coms become very chaste,
Yeah.
but the fact of the matter is that it wasn't always like that. Like I know some people
Mhm.
like there should be no sexy in rom-coms, but the truth is that way back in the day there was always something titillating. Like,
Yeah.
I saw, mommy kissing Santa Claus and,
Mhm.
baby it's cold outside and a
Mhm.
lot of those songs there was always the fun dance of romance during the holidays.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
like they were never connected before.
Mhm.
Somewhere along the line it became like you can't have, and I understand that people are like, oh, you need to watch it with your family, or your kid could come running through the room, but there's a lot of room between having two people throwing down on a couch under a
Mhm.
mistletoe
Yeah.
and you know they look like brother and sister. There is a lot.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I also this is kind of a larger societal question because society has become a lot more chaste. There are all of these kind of articles about how younger generations are just a lot more chaste for various reasons. I don't know why. They don't want to see. It's not like I don't know if they're having sex, but they don't want to see it in movies. Like that's been sort of a trend that's been happening nowadays in general culturally. So I wonder
Right.
if the holiday movies are like a reflection of that.
Well, I think that the difference for me is that and which I actually think is really fascinating is that I do feel like when audiences are looking at two people having sex on a screen,
Mhm.
that it number one, they're thinking about the actors having to do this in the first
Right.
place,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
it takes them out of what's happening.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think for me that makes complete sense. I'm thinking more about just intimacy,
Right. Yeah.
and I think the popularity of some of these movies
Mhm.
have been because people are actually craving seeing intimacy on
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
screen. Just it doesn't
Mhm.
have to be graphic
Mhm.
sex, but
Mhm.
something that makes you feel a little something, because
Mhm.
people are feeling a lot of something during the holidays, or they want
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. Mhm.
And the Bridgerton being really popular and all of
Yeah.
these really
Yeah.
romantic things are huge because
Mhm.
there's a huge audience for it. And I
Yeah.
think, they know that. I think all these holiday movies, the rom-com holiday movies know that. But what
Mhm.
do you do about that?
Yeah. Well, I also think that, beyond there's like physical intimacy and then there's kind of emotional intimacy too.
Yes,
And I think that chemistry plays a role in that, right? Where it's like,
absolutely.
and I feel like, there's also the element of watching a holiday movie, the wish fulfillment part of it, and not just like, oh, I want this hot person, but also I want someone who like knows me in this like way that
Right.
like an intimate partner knows you. They know your interests, or they know, you wrinkle your forehead when you're upset. When Harry Met Sally reference there. But
I
like
heard it. I heard it.
things
You
that,
nailed it.
I think that people watch these movies because that's also what they're craving, is to be kind of known in a way that is, like that's deeply intimate, that is even beyond sex, but a little sexy times is not
Right.
bad too.
Or just the idea that someone wants you.
Mhm,
Like
mhm.
that's the idea of that they want to touch you, and there's something about you that makes you different from everybody else,
Yeah,
and not
yeah.
like just saying, "I think you're great. We are something."
Mhm.
It's so robotic when they do that,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you want
yeah.
to see that there's this thing, because I think everybody wants that thing with a partner at some point, and
Mhm.
romance is important of the
Yeah.
rom-com. And
Mhm.
but I also think that there are gatekeepers that are real,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And so
Oh,
they will
yeah. Oh,
convince
yeah, yeah,
you.
yeah.
They're
Mhm.
not always reacting to what people want. I think they
Mhm.
are sometimes reacting what they feel like people should see,
Mm. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so that's what you end up seeing. Now,
Mhm.
one of the things that we were talking about is that this year,
Mhm.
um, and just for everyone who's listening, when you think of, these holiday rom-coms, everyone thinks of Hallmark first, which makes sense since they started this whole thing,
Yeah.
right? 47 movies coming out. But the
Mhm.
fact of the matter is that, we were actually talking to a writer of these movies recently, and she said that they're making like 200 are coming out.
It's wild.
200 are coming out in
Mhm.
2024 alone, right?
Mhm.
So even though, to have almost a quarter of that market is huge,
Yeah.
there's way more other ones outside of Hallmark, and that
Mhm.
actually creates this space for other things to come in.
Right.
So you have first there was, Hallmark, and then you've got Lifetime. Lifetime is different than Hallmark. They're not the same. Their Lifetime doesn't make as many movies as they do, but they do
Right.
understand that they have some wiggle room in terms of
Mhm.
distinguishing themselves from Hallmark.
Yeah.
This year, I feel like they pulled back a whole
Oh, yeah.
bit.
There's something small like 12, or that's
Yeah.
very small.
And also on their the topics that
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
are going, but they do push the boundaries way more in terms of showing intimacy, in terms of showing, but they don't go over the line. Don't get me wrong,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
they will push it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
For sure. And but then you also have to remember there are new players. You've got Prime, you've got Hulu, and
Mhm.
they don't have nearly as many boundaries, right? They can really push it if they
Oh,
want
yeah.
to.
Yeah.
And I think what that does is if they are successful, then the
Mhm.
other channels need to acknowledge that, hey, there's an audience for that too. So with that
Mhm.
said, Angela, tell them a little bit about the movies that are on Netflix.
So we're gonna talk a little bit about, we're gonna do something a little different this week,
Yes.
or this week. Yeah, this week. I'm like, this
Go
episode.
with it.
Um And we are going to talk about two different movies. So we're going to do two kind of like mini reviews of some Netflix movies. Netflix has really gotten into the space in a real way, and I was trying to like Google to see the numbers in terms of how much these movies cost, but as we've talked about, a lot of the Christmas movies for other networks are kind of in the million range, like a BET Plus or like an Up TV, like a
Right.
million or under, right? Um, Hallmark is kind of in the two to four is like high for Hallmark. Lifetime is in that range or even a little lower, but Netflix, I have no idea, but minimum 7, probably into the like 10, 15 for I mean I don't even know how much Hot Frosty cost, but Hot Frosty has a Coldplay song at the end, so if that gives you any indication,
Yep.
um,
And real
Netflix is
stars in
putting
it.
and real stars. Netflix is putting real money into these movies. So we wanted to talk about two of them. Let's start with Hot Frosty. I have to do my favorite thing, which is read the IMDb
Love it.
blurb. Um, so Hot Frosty, it stars Lacey Chabert and Dusty Milligan of Schitt's Creek, one of my favorite shows.
Mine
Okay,
too.
Widow Kathy magically brings a snowman to life. His innocence helps her heal and find love again. They bond before the holidays, but he's doomed to melt. That is like I that is
Sorry.
I
I
don't even
can't even.
believe I
How
can't
did you
believe
read
I
that with
don't
a
think
straight
Netflix
face
wrote
though?
that. Netflix is not did not write some. I feel like some fan went in and I'm rewriting it. Anyway, that is the premise. Dusty is the
Hmm.
snowman.
Yes.
Uh, and there are a lot of celebrities in it.
Yes. The inexplicably chiseled
Yes,
snowman.
I know, I know.
Why?
Uh,
Why?
why? And he's also, I think, had a
Okay,
little
nah, don't nope, don't do that. Don't do
face
that.
work. I'm
Don't do
just
that.
gonna. Ugh.
Yeah.
Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. So, I definitely too feel like I want to mention a little bit of the crew of Hot Frosty because I think this matters. The director Jerry Sicuriti, I'm probably not saying that right. Canadian director. They definitely shot this in Canada.
Yes.
Definitely. Canadian director who directed a bunch of episodes of Schitt's Creek, which makes sense because it's very like comedy, and one of
Hmm.
the actors from Schitt's Creek in it, and the writer is this guy Russell Hainline. Uh, who knows if I'm saying that right? But he's kind of new in the past couple of years. Has written a lot of holiday movies, um, and he's writing a bunch that I'm sure we'll be talking about later on in the season. One of which is Three Wiser Men and a Boy, which we'll get to that later.
Yes.
So that's kind of the team. Craig Robinson is in this movie.
He's very funny.
Very funny. There's just a lot of different actors from a lot of different comedies who have fairly small parts, which is
Right.
why I was like, this movie has some money. Um, so Aisha,
Uh-oh.
Hot Frosty.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
What are your thoughts, not just about the movie, but in line with the whole sexy theme?
I'm just going to speak from my heart and
Speak
say,
from your heart, girl.
first, I will start with the upside. It
Mm-hmm.
is a very pretty movie. You can tell that they put some money into it, and and I appreciate that. I appreciate trying putting money into a rom com to have fun. They
Oh
have
yeah.
music in it. There's even like a
Mm-hmm.
dance number, and
Mm-hmm.
they a lot of times with these movies you don't really every word is on a page, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here you could tell that the actors really had a good time coming up with their own banter to make it
Mm-hmm.
funny,
There's a
and
lot of improv in this movie, for
so much.
better or for worse, in
Yep.
my opinion.
There
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
part of me is like, what is on the cutting room floor, because that there was a
Mm-hmm.
lot of improv.
Mm-hmm.
With that said,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
what I understand, because I've actually spoken to a lot of people who've seen Hot Frosty. First, I saw it,
Mm-hmm.
and then I started to hear, and then I read the articles all about it. Then I started to, people were texting me because the marketing on this jammy is everywhere. And so
Yeah.
I wanted to understand, this is a version of trying to infuse sexy into a Christmas romantic comedy. right? And
Mhm.
I need to emphasize that it is a version of it because there are a
Mhm.
lot of ways to try to put that into a movie. In this
Mhm.
particular movie, their way of infusing sexiness was to have this poor man without a shirt 90% of the time,
We don't change in front of people. We wait until no one's around.
Got it.
I
under
know.
the
I know.
guise that he is a snowman, a very chiseled
Mhm.
snowman,
Yeah. Yeah.
and therefore he won't get cold. So that's why he's not
Mhm.
wearing a shirt. And
Mhm.
then all the
Mhm.
women of the town is chasing or staring at him and talking about him, and they're getting all hot and bothered
Mhm.
watching it. And that is a huge part of this movie is watching women get hot and bothered by this young man
Yes.
without a shirt.
Mhm.
And the thing is, for me, I like chemistry. Like the relationship between the two people for the
Mhm.
rom part of the com
Yeah.
is actually important to me. And
Yeah.
so I did see the com part
Yeah.
of it. They really played on this clueless boy's influence and all these women who were hot and bothered. It
Mhm.
just didn't feel, as a woman, and I'm a woman of a certain age, it didn't it I wasn't the audience for that. That was my
Yeah.
only thing. And then and the fact that they had very little chemistry kind of
Mhm.
took me, just I had to put the rom over here. The calm
Yeah.
part, I thought I loved the fact that I thought there were funny moments in it. I love the
Mhm.
effort for the comedy. I love the townspeople. I love the women working together and all that other good stuff. But if you like the romantic part as your favorite part of the movie, I'm not sure this is going to be for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Was that fair?
You're very I like very measured.
Thank you. I was trying
Yeah.
really hard.
So the thing that's tricky about Hot Frosty is I mean, I think it's something like 16 million people have seen it.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, it's so
it's
popular.
huge. And what I was thinking about is that it's so big because I think people don't really a lot of people watched Hot Frosty who don't normally watch holiday rom-coms, right? So in a way, it allowed them to sort of change the format in some key ways. And I think that bringing more comedy and more like clearly like comedy writers wrote part of this and letting very funny actors just improv and do their thing
Right.
makes the movie elevates the comedy part of the movie like you were saying. Like
Yes.
it's just, that's not something that in the scripts they just need like a few like, chuckles, but it's not like people are like you know um but yeah, I do think there is something to the structure of some of these movies in terms of like showing how people fall in love. There has been like years and years of research around what does work and what doesn't work. It's not like in a vacuum. And I think for me, this movie, she is not the protagonist.
She is not.
And they try to make it seem like she is.
What am I doing here? I'm really asking the universe for clarification.
Right.
And because she is not the protagonist, the movie doesn't really quite work because they at first set you up with her in the beginning, and then he kind of takes it over, and she doesn't really have anything she's doing. And she's kind of like mopey sad, and all she, it's like also because it's like they had a lot of money but then they didn't have a lot of money because they obviously couldn't do anything like CGI related, so it
Right.
has to just be, we don't want him to melt, so he's just gonna sweat a lot. Like it's
Yep.
just like, okay,
I mean, that's what I look like when I'm melting, but
exactly.
I could wake up tomorrow and be a puddle.
didn't translate.
So it's like it's like a holiday comedy, but there's not really a lot of chemistry. And
No.
I'm glad that it brought more people to the genre. I
Agreed.
just don't think it's a particularly good film.
Oh no.
And it feels weird. I'm just gonna say, if I know
Wow.
it feels weird me saying this isn't a very good movie when I have a podcast of holiday movies that many people arguably think are not good movies.
Hell, they might even make a podcast out of this.
that's fine. You know,
He's
you
so
can
funny.
side eye me all you want. But as a studier of this genre, I will say that like I always argue Christmas movies are a genre like many other genres. Horror is a genre that I do not like, have no interest in. I know there are good horror films, I just do not watch them. Um and there are better horror films than others. Like with this, it's like I just feel like Hot Frosty. I'm glad it brings a lot of people to the genre. I'm glad that these movies are getting bigger budgets. I definitely could tell that a man wrote it and that a man
Yes,
directed
ma'am.
it.
Yes.
And this is the issue that we've talked about in other episodes, which is less and less women are actually making these films. And so when less and less women are making the films, the female characters are like this. you
Right.
know,
Right.
it's just the
It's the thought process of what would a woman probably like, right? So
mm-hmm.
I'm sure women like shirtless men all the time,
Yeah.
right? That's got to do it for them. And
exactly.
I'm sure like the perfect guy would buy you a gift and fix things in your house, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's manly. Like it felt like a lot of guessing. Although here's the interesting thing, and actually
Mm-hmm.
one of these things I didn't tell you is that I got several text messages from moms who watched Hot Frosty with their sons.
Mm-hmm.
And initially you're like, wait, what? Because they're
Mm-hmm.
marketing as this like sexy thing.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is that because of the heavy male influence on the
Mm-hmm.
plot, the
Mm-hmm.
sons actually liked it. And
Yeah.
yesterday, I got a text from a husband who
Mm.
said, "Hey, have you seen Hot Frosty? I was thinking of watching it with my wife, and I
Oh.
wanted to know your thoughts."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Oh, I've seen it. Um, watch it and let me know your thoughts." And I did that
Yeah.
on purpose because one of the things that Angela and I talked about is like, look, we've seen a lot of these movies, so many over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that's going to happen over time is that you're going to have preferences on
Yeah.
the types of movies that you like, but that doesn't mean the other ones aren't valid to like
Mm-hmm.
as well. And so
Yeah.
what we understand is that, if Hot Frosty isn't necessarily our thing, that doesn't mean that it's not worth watching or enjoying, because I can understand why someone would say, because for my friend who watched it with her son, one of them was 18, the other one is 15. She said they had a great time and they thought it
Mm-hmm.
was
Mm-hmm.
funny. And that's
Yeah.
going to be a memory. A lot of this is about nostalgia. She's going to have both of them have these great memories of a movie that they watched with their sons. And
Mm-hmm.
so for them, it's going to be warm and fuzzies. So I'm like, yeah, don't give that up. Right. So I'm not going to poo poo on that.
The kids love him.
Well, I think my takeaway from the movie in terms of how to bring a bigger audience is comedy, is making the movies like funnier. I mean, the
Yes.
movie was funny and the movie had like physical comedy, like shenanigans that are funny, not like holiday shenanigans, you know?
Right.
Um, and in some ways it was kind of clowning the holiday genre because there's all these like throwbacks to, the which one is the Lindsay Lohan Amnesia Netflix film.
Oh,
There's a
she
bunch of
said,
throwbacks to all
she
these
said she
different
looks, I think I went to school with her.
yeah, yeah. There's like all of these like throwbacks to these Netflix films, and these things are funny and they work well. So to me, I was like, how do you make a film that's funny like this, but just have the love story work better? You
Yes.
know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree with you. I agree with you.
So before we go to our next film, The Merry Gentleman, which I keep forgetting. I keep being like The Merry Men,
Right.
The Merry
We won't
Gentleman.
spend as much time on this one, we
We
promise.
will not spend as much time on this one, but I do want to say this. Something that our producer slash my husband Dwayne brought up that I did want to kind of throw out there for a brief discussion is um both of these movies are like there's a lot of like men with no shirts on,
Yep.
and and like it's kind of weird that they both have it,
I mean,
but
I think that was by
anyway.
design. I
Oh, that
think
was 100% by
that
design.
was by design. I think they felt like there is a market for this and we're
Mhm.
leaning into it. We're
Yeah,
hoping there's a market, and they got proved right, right? So far,
they
they
did. They
marketed the
did.
heck out of this jammy, and their
Mhm.
numbers are really good.
Yeah, yeah. I guess it's like, I mean, I don't know if is it like, okay, it's okay for like men to be objectified, walking around with no shirt on. I don't know. Like he's posing a question about it, and I was kind of curious about your thoughts, Aisha.
Well, I mean, in the Lifetime article, they said that that the women on the set worked really
Hmm.
hard to make sure that the men felt safe because
Mm,
they understood what it means to be in that predicament.
yeah. Hmm.
Um, Although the gentleman who played Hot Frosty said
Hmm.
that he had worked so hard to get his body that way because he understood that that was part of the character,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
he was edging towards an unhealthy body image.
Mm.
Like this idea to have the perfect body meant that he was running the risk of seeing flaws in himself all the time.
God, yeah.
I feel hot.
I'm
Hmm.
like, yeah, that's what women go through
All the
all the
time. Yeah,
time. Sorry, buddy.
yeah.
I'm sorry that happened to you.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think like I to me the whole men with no shirts on hot body thing is it's funny because it actually feels like it's a trope created by male executives because male executives think that this is what women want and this is what women find to be, and obviously like sure these men look good with no shirts on whatever,
Yeah.
but it's a funny thing because you're like this is a trope that like you guys have created.
Right. Like they're thinking they must like seeing a good looking man with no shirt on.
Hmm.
So somehow that gets transported. So then they'll like even more
Hmm.
five men with no shirt on.
Right,
And then
exactly.
they'll like even more five men with no shirt on a stage stripping during the holidays. And it was
Mhm.
like, oh,
Mhm.
okay, we just took that and
I mean, and listen, Magic Mike is $1 billion franchise for a reason. They're not
correct.
wrong.
Correct. I mean, they literally said that they took Magic Mike. And by the way, audience, we're talking about the Married Gentlemen.
Let me read the little blurb before
Yes.
we. Um, so Merry Gentleman, Netflix movie starring Chad Michael Murray of One Tree Hill fame and Britt Robertson. Um, to save her parents' small town performing venue, a former big city dancer decides to stage an all male Christmas themed review.
Sorry,
That's
Angela.
actually though what it is about.
No, it's true. But you said big city, and I heard, I,
What did you hear?
I heard big titty.
Oh.
I'm like, Angela, who
No,
wrote
no
that?
big titties in this movie.
I know, no, there are not. But I know that we're supposed to be talking about sex and this, but I'm like, that's a lot. Oh my, and it's so funny. I was actually going to write in the beginning of, I was
Mhm,
tired, and we were
mhm,
talking about this, and I was talking about Hot Frosty, and I was trying
mhm.
to come up with like the sexier place in holiday movies. And I was
Mhm.
going to say at the North Pole, and I'm like, you're tired. It's too much.
Yeah.
It's too much. Um, you
Too
can't
much. Too much.
you can't do it. And then of course I hear you say big titty. I'm
Big titty. Yeah.
listen, I'm sorry. My bad to anyone that offended. It's what
Big
I
titty. Yeah.
heard. It's what I
That's what
heard.
I have. I mean, it's true.
It's yes.
Okay, so anyway, we were talking about
Yes.
we did Magic Mike and then talking about that the movie was Magic Mike meets
Right,
Christmas,
right.
essentially.
Well, and also a full Monty, right? Because it is
Right.
basically the
It's a
plot of
full Monty
it's a
more
full
than
Monty,
it's
right?
Magic Mike.
Yes,
Hmm.
exactly. Like the plot is just
Hmm.
it's very much that. So I went first last time. Angela,
Oh
what
yeah, I'm
did
happy
you
to go
think?
first.
Take it
So
away.
Merry Gentleman is more like so written by a woman. I think that's important
Yes.
to mention. Directed by a man, written by a woman. Actress Marla Sokoloff, who's actually been around for a minute. She's in the
Yes, she has.
movie, but
Yep.
she's been around for a while. So it actually is about the female protagonist, and she it's a lot more of like a basic holiday movie in terms of it's like she's from a big city, she loses her job, she's got to go home. So it's kind of all hits all those beats. And the moment when all of a sudden there should be an all male review is like what I was like, I don't know
Right.
how you got
Yep.
from that to
Yep.
an all male review.
Who's ready to make some Christmas magic?
I mean, there's just like
That's not your
no,
natural go-to, Ange, when you're
it's
trying to
just
raise
no reason.
money.
Like, you're just like, okay, I don't know. Um, I think, this is a movie that, I mean, Netflix doesn't have commercials, so I'm not really sure why it's structured in a funny way. I think that this is where making movies can be hard because you start to go, but you didn't have to do it like this.
Right.
You could have made this exact same movie and structured it slightly differently and it would work better. So it's like the male review thing kind of happens early-ish in the movie, and then
Mm-hmm.
there's like, you'll see. But I like it when things are kind of building to a performance. And you don't really get to know, it's not just Chad Michael Murray performing. There's other guys, but Chad Michael Murray's the most important guy because he's the love interest. And I think I would have liked to have gotten to know some of the other guys. I think there was just like room for a little more character development than what they did.
Yes.
I did feel like, though, Chad Michael Murray and Britt Robertson had chemistry. So that I will say.
Sure.
The two of them had chemistry, and they
Sure.
made out a couple of times, and
They
those
did.
were open mouth kisses, my friend. And
Yep.
I was like, okay. So
Solid way to make a living.
yeah,
Solid
even
way to
when
make a
I
living.
was a little snoozy on the movie, I was literally like, "Ooh, look at them kissing again." Um, I like the town. I like the family. It's just a movie that's like a little too lean on plot, and but they did have chemistry, and
Sure.
I wish there was like a teeny bit more going on than there is. And I should, we have to also state the thing that sort of gets a little eye rolly, which is the sister. Okay, diversity. The
Or lack
sister,
thereof, you mean?
yeah. If these are just like fake towns in like the middle of nowhere / Canada, why can't they be diverse again? Because there's like literally no reason why they can't. And they do this thing that Aisha and I have discussed, where the black it's a black guy who is married to the white sister in like 50% of these movies, and is usually a black guy that I don't know how they find black men that have like no
Stop. I
chemistry with
know.
the sister
No.
and so little sex appeal, and it's just
So
like,
mean. You're so
I'm
mean.
sorry. I'm saying it. I am just like, do you know how many hot black men there are
Oh
in
my
this world?
gosh.
And it's fine if you're gonna have the that character be somebody who doesn't have a big plot, then they're not really acting that much. So can you get someone
Oh
who
my, I just
has
think it's funny that they made that man shirtless. I was like, did he read the contract? Because
the
he was
man
next
is
to all
shirtless and
they had it with
next
a
to
whole
the
bunch of
other
people.
people,
Oh, I was
it's
like,
like,
I'm sorry, pumpkin.
no,
Yeah,
no.
I
So
just,
I don't
you
know.
know, it felt on purpose that he wasn't
Mm-hmm.
like there was no reason
Right,
for the
right.
bartender to look like that.
Exactly.
Why does the bartender look like that and have all
Mm-hmm.
those moves? That's not a part of his job.
I know. I
Or
know.
like the Uber driver guy, like he doesn't need to look like that and do
Right.
that. So
That's like
what?
so because
Why?
the husband was so like, fit guy that you would know, but not like, a stripper. I don't understand why
I don't
they
know.
like they kind of made something about him being goofy, and I just thought there was like room for more plot there, and it was like, what?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
much
it was
room.
weird. I
It
was
was
just like,
I know. I know.
yeah, it was kind of, and it began very like, in a lot of ways it's like well directed in terms of in the beginning of it, like it's, they have like, she's like a rockette type person, and there's sequences in the beginning, and I felt like they made those look pretty good for, because this movie did not have hot Frosty money.
It did not.
That I know.
It did
I
not.
mean, you were like, "There's no. This is not hot Frosty money." Um, so
I'm sorry.
like it was fun. It was entertaining.
Her Rockette skills led her to be able to choreograph Male stripper.
I'm confused.
Time for our rating. For Hot Frosty, I give it a 6. I don't recommend anything that I give at least a 7. With Hot Frosty, it's funny, but it's not really a lot of rom. Aisha, your turn.
For Hot Frosty, I'm giving it a 6.9. There's so much shenanigans. There's really great comedians in it. And if you're more for the calm than the rom, you really might enjoy yourself.
What in the name of God?
You watch this with your 15-year-old. They love the comedians from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. People love those guys, and they think everything they do is really funny. So just having them in it alone meant, oh, this is better than most of the movies you make me watch.
For The Married Gentleman, I give it a 7 because it's more rom, not very much calm, but I prefer that.
Right. For Married Gentleman, I'm giving it a 6.8. Definitely you have to be more for the rom than the com because it's actually not that funny, but it's really leaning into trying to be a sexier holiday movie. And if you're in the mood for that, it's actually a little bit more of a classic kind of holiday movie, the way that they do them. You may really like it.
Here's what I'm gonna say, just to wrap this up about these two movies, is just to the tie that binds is really that Netflix has taken a chance on the idea that women who clearly make up the largest proportion of the audience for these holiday rom-coms, that they have needs. Sorry.
They do have needs.
They have needs that that need to be fulfilled, and they want to be able to do that in a way that they know that the Hallmark and Lifetime cannot. And so they want to see if that works. They have put so many dollars into marketing these movies, and they're trying something different. And I guess, I don't think Hallmark is going to follow suit, but I already think that Netflix has shown that they can hit an audience. And one of the things I will say is that, and something that, Angela and I come upon often, is that when friends ask us, hey, what holiday movie should I be watching? They will talk about what they have, and they'll say they have Netflix, and they say they have Hulu, but they actually don't have cable, right? So then Hallmark isn't an option for them, which leaves, Hulu and Netflix as their go-to for holiday movies. And both of those channels have taken on a whole lot of holiday movies from Hallmark and Lifetime. And you can now see a lot of them on there. So they actually are able to, use their competitors and to create something for everyone. And they're just trying to figure out what everyone needs. So
well, one thing just to jump in there about industry when fast thing is so Hot Frosty, for example, Lacey Chabert, who am I saying that right? Chabert?
I think so.
Her, she was like the queen of Hallmark.
Yes.
And then there was all this drama about the head of Hallmark talking about her being old or something. Anyway, that's a whole article to look up and
It
discuss.
really is. Yep.
So they're saying she sort of left Hallmark, and this is sort of like the beginning of like a new era with her. So Netflix not only financed and made Hot Frosty, they also licensed a bunch of her Hallmark films. They licensed Haul Out the Holly, which many of you know from past seasons I'm a fan of, and they licensed a couple of her other films. So what to know about these films is some of these films are owned by Hallmark or owned by Lifetime. Some of them are just like licensed and they come onto a Hallmark or a Lifetime.
Yeah.
But they have a licensing window. And some of the licensing windows are multiple years. Some of them are like a year. So I think a lot of these holiday movies the licensing windows are closing. And instead of this feeling that used to be like you need a new movie, so you're not going to take like an old movie, Netflix is sort of, I think, picking up these licensing windows and saying,
Absolutely.
"Oh, I have Lacey in these other movies. Let's make it be like a whole Lacey thing this year, and then she can be our Netflix holiday girl, and we have a bunch of movies in our library that she's made, and Netflix keeps the things that they make forever, but they're the things that, everyone knows that they're movies that they license that sort of come and go. So I just kind of want to give a little context to kind of the business model there, because there definitely is a business model there in terms of trying to make her their star.
Yes.
And trying to get more men to
Yes.
watch holiday movies, which Hallmark is doing too.
Oh man. Yep.
So with and I think to less success, I think they're kind of doing that a little bit in a way where it's like men are in things, but I don't know if they're making things that are going to necessarily attract that audience, but time will tell.
Absolutely, because I actually feel like they've put more men in their movies, and I'm talking
Yeah.
about Hallmark, but it feels like they're putting more men in their movies to appeal to women. They
Right.
too feel like women have needs and want,
Mhm.
and they're marketing these men, so they can become their own entities in some way. That because
Yeah.
the thing that's in Hallmark is that the fan base will follow the actor,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
they're actually on the road. You can go to live shows. You could
Oh
see
yeah.
them do their own thing. They become stars in their own right in that genre. And
Mhm.
so, it's not just, oh, I want to follow a woman because, she understands what I'm going through. The women will
Right.
also follow the men because they find them attractive in the movies. And Hallmark
Mhm.
is leaning a lot into this idea as the men being the protagonists and
Mhm.
trying to find love. We'd love to know your thoughts
Yes,
on
yes.
both of these. Please, please, please subscribe. Let us
Mhm.
know your thoughts. It'll be great.
Yeah.
So we've talked about two movies.
Mhm.
And so right now is our segment of Aisha's picks. And just so that you know, Aisha's picks are, we've seen so many of these movies. I've seen a gazillion of them. And there are some,
Aisha's really seen a lot of the
I have
movies.
seen a lot.
Mhm.
So the thing is that there are, what did I just say, 200 this year alone. So they're not all good. Okay. I'm gonna be honest
No.
with you. They're not.
No.
I'm not
No.
going to lie to you. But what I have offered is that if you've just got a weekend and you need to see a movie that is decent, I'm going to suggest them so that you can. Everything that I suggest is at least a 7, because on our rating from 1 to 10 is at least a 7 or above. And I will tell you why, and then you can choose so that you at least you kind of lowered the chances of it being absolutely
Mhm.
awful. This is my gift to you. So,
Mhm.
what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to stick with our theme of
Mhm.
sexy, and I'm going to offer two movies that definitely up the factor of sexiness in their films. So the first one is called The Holiday Fix Up. It's
Mhm.
on Lifetime. Came out in 2021, and it stars Jenna Kramer and Ryan McPartlin. And what it's about, it's a designer behind a popular renovation show. It's paired with her ex for a sentimental renovation. And I chose this one because first of all, Jenna Kramer is very good in this genre. In general, that's
Mhm.
just
Very good.
that's her sweet spot.
Mhm.
But this was one that they put some real money into, first of all, number one.
Mhm.
Number two, there is real chemistry between these two.
Oh yeah.
I mean, real, like, okay, girl, I see your problem. I see why you're not thinking straight.
Mhm.
The writing is actually pretty decent.
And
It's
also
just,
he's not in enough movies, this Ryan
he is
person.
not.
He should be in more. He should
That
be
is
in
a
more.
good
Yeah.
looking man. It is not
Mhm. Mhm.
debatable. Okay? It's
Mhm.
just not.
Yeah.
It's not
No.
debatable. She's very
But
pretty.
charming, good looking,
All the
charming,
things.
like
He's
all
got
the
a sense of
things.
humor. He can
Mhm.
act. He can do all the things, right? So together, they're awesome. They're really
Mhm.
good together. It's solid. And do they sleep together in it? Yes, they
Mhm.
do. You're welcome.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
it's not graphic in any way, shape, or form. No, if your kid wanders in, you're going to be embarrassed. None of that's going to happen.
Mhm.
But they're grown-ups and they act like grown-ups, and it's emotional and but in a good way, nothing over the top, but it's a solid, solid rom-com. Both of them.
Mhm.
There are funny parts, but it's romantic. It's very sweet. And Maria Menounos is in this one.
It's the
Now,
same director of the Plum
ah,
Hill Manor one.
there we go.
That's out this year.
See,
Yeah,
so
same
there we
director.
go.
Yeah.
There we
Mhm.
go. Now the second one is called Christmas on the Farm. It came out in 2021. It is now on Hulu. And it has Poppy Montgomery and Nathan Mayfield. And the plot is a socialite who fakes her identity to get her book published has to rush back to her mother's farm. I get that plot that I just said is like, what? No, 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 no. I'll own that. But here's the
Mhm.
thing, because it's on Hulu, they kind of shake up the whole the formula on how to
Mhm.
make these rom-coms. And I think a lot of people are used to Hallmark and Lifetime, and Christmas on the Farm is not that. They definitely have sex, but it is funny.
I have not seen this one, by the way.
It
Yeah, you mentioned it to
really
me many times, but I haven't
it
seen it.
it really leans into the comedy. It has a lot of extra players, characters that are great. They are very funny. It is a solid romantic comedy. The reason why I'm bringing this particular one up is if you liked Hot Frosty and how
Mm.
much comedy is in there as well
Mhm.
as romance, then I think you're going to really like Christmas on the Farm
Mm,
because
okay.
it does that, and it is funny, and it has a lot of comedy in it, and it's a good time. It kind of there's a little birdcage feel to it,
Oh.
and where people have to pretend to be something else. I'm not ruining it for you, but
Mm.
it's when you watch it, you're gonna go, oh, got it. But there's a lot of heart, and I hope you watch one of them and then let us know. I'd love to know what you think.
Mm, cool.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Aisha. So that's us for now. We're
Yes.
super excited to do this with you because the truth is we'd be watching and loving these movies anyway. So we're happy we get to talk to you about them and to talk to each other about them.
Yes.
So please check out our weekly posts with some movies also that'll be playing this week because we realize we want to get more and more movies to you. So in
Yes.
our social media, we're posting about other movies to watch and check out and let us know what you think.
Yeah, we
And
haven't seen
we
those, so
no.
we really do want to know what you think.
Yeah, we really want to know what you think.
We're just
Aisha
telling you what
will
comes
see them
out.
all. Yeah, Aisha
I
will see
will
them all.
not.
But
I will not.
um
Some of them I'm like, nope, not gonna watch
yeah,
that.
nope,
Thank
not gonna
you.
do it.
Yep.
But we will end with an affirmation. Aisha, take it away.
Right. So here's I try to leave some notes from the two of us about
Mhm.
things that we want you to think about. We know we appreciate you giving us your time, and it's important that you kind of see us and listening to our podcast
Mhm.
as just joining a tribe of people who just want to enjoy these holiday rom-coms and talk about it and think about it and just, escape for a little while. So what we want to say is that as the holiday season picks up, it can be really easy to just lose sight of the purpose of this time, and so we really want you to think about connection. So, yes, I'm about to quote Brene Brown. Brene Brown
Mhm.
defines the connection as the energy that exists between people when they feel seen and heard and valued. And anyone who's listening to my voice, you deserve to feel this. And you will be all the better when you can gift it to somebody else. So find your people, find your furry friend, find a place and a person that can make you feel good because you deserve that, and get connecting. So
Aw,
thank
thank
you so
you.
much for hanging out with us.
hmm and remember, you can connect with us on Instagram, the number 4, the Love of Tinsel, Facebook, the number 4, the Love of Tinsel, and our website for theloveoftinsel.com, and TikTok. So we'd love to thank our amazing producer, Dwayne, our editor, Chris, who's just been doing God's work over there and
We
cutting down our
appreciate you,
words.
sir. We appreciate you.
Our intern, Adia, Kara of Blue Windmill.
Little blue windmill.
Little Blue Windmill. Oh, why do I do that all the time?
It's
Kara, don't hate
okay.
me.
She loves you. You're fine.
Who does the logo? And also we just want to give a shout out to a fan of ours who just, our number one fan, Ishan Chari. This one is for you. We love our number one fan. And that's it. So we will see you next time. Thanks for listening.
See you next time.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.